So, hello everybody. Today I'm going to do a little bit of a review for products for the world of darkness. I've got this book here, it's called Mysterious Places. It clocks in at 135 pages, and Urban Legends, which clocks in at 133 pages. But before we go into the contents of the books, I would like to take a brief moment to look at the outside of these books, because these are print on demand from Drive-Thru RPG. They are for the world of darkness, and they were printed in Milton Keynes, which is in England. And basically I ordered them through Drive-Thru RPG, and apparently for Europe this is where the printing happens. And I think, yes, this is 2007, and this one is 2000 and, does this have a copyright information? It should have copyright information. Here we are, 2005. So these are 15 and 13 years old. So I don't know if they are new World of Darkness or old World of Darkness, but it doesn't really matter. The quality is really good. I mean, the covers look great. As you can see, I've had them for a good while. The binding is really good. These are black and white. I don't know if they would have been available in full color. However, I did get the W20 from Print on Demand, and I took the color version, and I might just as well not have taken it because there wasn't that much color in the book to begin with. So for these books, I think black and white is very serviceable and actually makes perfect sense also, because I doubt that these would have been, maybe this might have been a color spread, but and this one here as well, but other ones would definitely have been black and white sketches. So what are these books? Well, first of all, it is important to note that they are World of Darkness, but they are, I would say, system independent. So this is not a source book for either mage or werewolf or vampire or geist or changeling, the lost, or changeling the dreaming. Of course not changeling the dreaming, because changing the dreaming is kind of weird. But or hunter. It's completely agnostic. I would even say you can play this even as part of a Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green, or even Cthulhu Now or Cthulhu Dark Ages. You could, especially with Mysterious Places, you could also transport this around across time. So while it is not dependent on any particular World of Darkness system you're playing, it does provide you with the relevant World of Darkness dice pool. So for example, it tells you that if you want to overcome a certain challenge, the dice pool would be wits and composure, for example. Every so often, it'll also say, depending on your character, so if the character is a vampire, something might happen. That's very rare, but it does occur. And mostly, I would say, it assumes that the characters that are playing in this particular scenario are human. They are not superhuman or non-human. So, Mysterious Places is a book that contains, or that basically revolves around either a natural place, let's say a lake, or a building, which would not be natural. There's even a scrapyard or a car scrapyard in there. And it's basically the place itself that has something weird about it. When we look at the table of contents, we have the swimming hole, which is essentially a it's a former quarry. The university, which of course in and of itself is a building, but also kind of consists of all of the students and faculty that have passed through this over the centuries. The swamp, Indian Hollow, it's a swamp. The village secret, it's about a village. Then the statue of Weeping Alice, which is about a town, but also about the land on which the town, or near which the town has been built. Then Hillcrest Center for Elder Living, that's essentially an old age pensioner's home. The Whispering Wood, well, it's about a wood, and the junkyard, and the empty room. The empty room is probably the one that is the closest, because it is actually about a room. And the stories tell about where the secret comes from. It sometimes is very concrete what the secret is. So, for example, with the statue of Weeping Alice is a statue. It's a statue of a girl, and there is a story around it that way back when, like during still kind of like new colonies in the United States, there was a drought, or there was a famine or something. And then somebody either sacrificed Alice, or Alice sacrificed herself. So there are lots of rumors about it. And then the town began to prosper again. And now the town in the 20th century or 21st century has fallen on hard times again. And now suddenly, you know, and somebody killed themselves in front of the statue, possibly by accident. They didn't really want to sacrifice themselves to Alice, but they ended up essentially sacrificing themselves to Alice, or somebody got killed in front of Alice, and suddenly things are happening that are positive, either for individuals or the whole town. And then you can have this scenario where it all spins out of control, where people are starting to sacrifice things, beings, objects to Alice, whereas sacrificing objects is probably not as bad, but it can go so far as people actually picking off criminals off the street and sacrificing them to Alice to gain good luck. The swimming hole is something similar, where you can basically sacrifice something in the swimming hole, in the quarry, and then you fall upon good luck. And then there are examples of be careful what you wish for. Each of the scenarios is provided with protagonists and antagonists, different ways of running the story, different ways of bringing in your protagonists, so your crew, the troupe as they call them. So are they part of the village? For example, with regard to the Alice story, do they take part in it? Are they also affected negatively by the hard times that the town has fallen upon, and they're now going along, but then they finally realize that this is a bad idea? Are they brought in from the outside and realize something weird is going on because somebody has asked them, oh my God, somebody vanished, or people have been dying, can you do something about it? So there are different ways in which the book suggests that you can bring in different types of troops into the story. When I was reading this, I wasn't reading it with a view to actually playing it. I was just reading it with a view to getting ideas, because I'm in a World of Darkness campaign, but it's a completely different one. It's Vampire 20, and none of this would apply. But I'm also running on and off Call of Cthulhu, and I always look for inspiration for stories that I can tell as part of Call of Cthulhu, using that particular rule set that are apart from the mythos, because I think the mythos is just plain boring and also not very scary. I have to say, some of the stuff that's in here, I couldn't read the one about the elderly folks in the old pensioners' home, because there's been so much going on here in Ireland with abuse in homes for the elderly and neglect, and you know that I don't even want to go there. I don't even want to read it. I would never set anything there. I just find it very problematic, because that is way too close to reality. And I think that in each of these books, I will be quite honest, there will be something that someone who reads the book will find disturbing. I know that this is intentional, and it also goes to show that this is the world of darkness, but it isn't that far away from our own world, and it can be quite distressing. And that's a good thing. But I would also say that if you choose to pick this up, and if you're going to play one of these, be very, very mindful that there are themes in here that can be very, very, very problematic for some players. So, you know, things like animal sacrifice. There are lots of pets that get their throats slit and stuff, you know. So whenever you kill an animal, you have to be very, very aware of what this may cause at the table. Or kids get killed, you know. So it is the world of darkness. I'm just going to say that. And as I was reading this, I was kind of going, okay, well, there are a couple of things where all of this can be brought back to nature standing up to mankind, nature fighting back. And of course, that in my mind immediately triggered werewolf, because of course, werewolf, the idea is that you have the garou, and they try to fight, amongst other things, well, they do try to fight on the side of Gaia, which is the world, the earth. And I think some of this could actually work for them, you know. There is even one storyline where there's a company coming in and is trying to start drilling and opening a quarry or reopening a quarry, and you could totally see this whole thing with the worm and everything coming out there and, you know, coming to the surface. So I think the applicability both within the World of Darkness systems as well as World of Darkness generically speaking, where you just create World of Darkness normal human beings, but also other dark systems is very, very strong in both books. So this is Mysterious Places. Then we have Urban Legends, which is exactly what you would think it is. So here you've got various urban legends that some people know about. So for example, you've got the Jersey Devil, which I wasn't familiar with, but I think if you live in the United States, then you will probably have heard of it. Bloody Mary, we're all aware of. Unwilling organ donors, yeah, this is an urban legend that you know has been going around for a good while, that people just wake up one day in a cold in a bathtub full of ice and they have 2 scars and they don't have any kidneys anymore, that kind of thing. Alligators in the sewers, this is kind of like a little bit of a take on the Innsmouth look, where due to even environmental, again you could bring in the werewolves, due to environmental I would say changes, you know, pollution, etc. People drink the water and they become more and more like fish-like or alligator-like, and they end up going into the sewers rather than the alligators coming out from the sewers because somebody flushed down a pet alligator and it grew to disproportionate sizes. People become them. So that's a very interesting one. Doppelgangers, I think, is quite interesting because it takes the idea of if somebody comes into a position of moral dilemma, or where they have to make a decision, they really don't know what to decide. A doppelganger gets, we all have a doppelganger, but in that case, it actually becomes manifest and it will take over that part of our lives and we will go on with our lives. So we're in 2 places at the same time, doing 2 conflicting things that we should not be able to do. But the problem is that the doppelganger will try and kill you. And then the story unfolds, because this book is a bit different. It's a lot less stringent. In some areas, they make it absolutely clear. So for example, the Bloody Mary one gives you a setting. It gives you the people who are in that setting. It gives you names. It tells a story of a gang war in a high-rise complex somewhere in the United States where everybody's kind of like a drug addict. You've got different gangs and somebody keeps summoning Bloody Mary to get street cred, essentially. To the doppelganger, where you really have a couple of ideas put together. There's one example of how a doppelganger works, and then there are different ways in which doppelgangers can manifest themselves. And there is this idea that the doppelganger is actually will actually lead to the person. So if you have one person and they live their lives, and I know this person in my timeline, and then a doppelganger gets created, and that doppelganger comes and takes the life of the original, as it were. The original is excised, not from memory, but they will disappear from pictures, they will disappear from records, and then you're left with, oh, but where's Frank? And everybody's like, who's Frank? And you kind of go, yeah, well, Frank, my friend, you've met him. And they go, no. Or you look at pictures and suddenly Frank's no longer there. So this one is is more of a mixture between scenarios that are written out, and they say that much in the introduction, and hooks and ideas that are semi-fleshed out, that they just throw out for you to take and then work with. I have to say that I like both books. I think that they are very interesting. I would say don't get distracted by the World of Darkness. If you are into horror or dark fantasy, and I mean it is in a way fantasy, so kind of things, this would be very interesting for you. You can adapt this very easily to any, I mean you could play this with a gumshoe D6 system, no problem. You just have to kind of like think about, you know, like take a character sheet and then think about, okay, let's see what happens there. These are all things that you could do. And it is a very, very well written piece of literature. And it sometimes actually reads as literature because you obviously also have short stories in there where they basically tell the urban legend of the eggs, where somebody basically who wants to get pregnant doesn't get pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And then one day they end up drinking tea and then they drink eggs and they hatch. And it all's this story of the person that owns the tea empire, and they've been trying to hatch this alien race and blah, blah, blah. So it's told as part of a story, and also in mysterious places. The beginning is actually, unfortunately, I really blame them for writing it this way, because this print, this white print is very thin, and on the grey background, it's extremely hard to read. It's extremely hard to read, but it's a really interesting story. The editing has been quite good. There are only minor spelling errors or errors in general, like, you know, doubling of words, you know, but nothing too serious. Unfortunately, I don't know the price, because since this is print on demand, the price isn't printed on the cover. Some of them are spooky, and one or two I was unable to read because I just didn't want to go near the subject matter. So there's a big caveat on this. And I would also say, if you buy this, you have to be 18. I mean, this is R-rated stuff, I would say. And also, I would advise caution at the table, because some of the subject matter is very sensitive. Killing children, killing animals, people being unable to conceive, then conceiving, and, you know, then having kind of like a terrible time of it, and then dying, and the fetus essentially popping out and then, you know, turning into something terrible, you know. It is dark. I want to point this out. It is dark. So it's really something where you at the table have to agree which areas you don't want to touch. So this is, but it is still a clear recommendation. So it's Urban Legends for World of Darkness, and it is Mysterious Places for World of Darkness. Print on demand, drive-through RPG. Enjoy. Bye.